turn it all into
Well,
something
at first it was starting as far as to bed early, like, okay, it ain't nothing today.
a picture of a complete product.
I didn't like the feeling of it. I didn't like how it made me feel.
Children aren't present. Yes, I can give this to you.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the Christina Carlo Show. Today we have these amazing guests. Go ahead and say your name.
Tanya and
Toby Tobias.
Yep, and they're here today to talk about being vegetarian. One aspect of the vegan lifestyle is to eat foods free of animal products. In the United States, close to 16 million people are vegetarians, and half of those people are vegans. But everyone has their own definition, and we get to hear their definition today. Tell me about your journey when it comes to being a vegetarian.
It started in about 2005 or 2006, and really for me it was a health reason. I was tired all the time, I was sluggish, I was getting lots and lots of headaches, and I remember one day eating a hamburger. I just had this huge pit in my stomach, I had the worst headache, I felt like I could fall asleep, and I started being more conscious of what I ate, and I realized that every time I ate some kind of meat, I had this feeling that I just felt horrible. So I thought, I'm going to consciously not eat meat for a few days for the next month. And so I went meatless a few times each week and started realizing I felt much lighter, I felt like I had more energy, I just felt great, I didn't have that pit in my stomach anymore. And at that point I decided I wanted to start eating meatless and eating more of a plant-based diet. So.
What did you know about being a vegetarian before you became a vegetarian?
They don't eat meat.
Yeah, right, exactly.
I really didn't know a whole lot. I've always loved fruits and vegetables my whole life. Meat, I ate because that's what you do from our societal perspective, but I never really enjoyed it all that much, or it wasn't something I had to have. So in all honesty, I didn't know much about it other than I realized when I stopped eating the meat that I felt better.
So much better.
Just lighter. Like I just felt lighter and had more energy. So.
Yeah, and I completely agree. I felt exactly the same way. I worked at a cancer patient hospital in Duarte. It's called City of Hope. And so I learned about so many diets, and I learned about how the patients couldn't eat certain foods because they were diagnosed with diabetes or cancer. And I really got to see that these people can still eat, and you're living off of sides.
And I grew up in Nebraska, the beef state. So we had meat with every meal. That was just what you did. That's just how I was raised. And so this was kind of me becoming my own person and being the black sheep of my family, where I wanted to go down this journey, and I don't regret one bit of it. So.
And how about for yourself?
Well, my transition was basically because of her, really. I mean, and it wasn't. She never once ever said you need to stop eating meat. She never once guilted me into it. Never did anything like that. It was just, she said, I'm not eating meat
It's a
anymore.
personal choice.
Yeah.
For me, it was just a personal choice.
So for me, it was a natural progression of. It didn't make sense to go out and buy a bunch of meat to cook at home when she wasn't going to eat it. It was just going to be me. So at home, we were eating more and more vegetarian dishes, and when I'd go out, I'd still eat meat. But for me, the tipping point was we had a trip to Western New York, and there's a place up there called the Farm Sanctuary, and it's an amazing place. And so they bring all these animals that are rescued from live auctions and things like that, or rescued from the side of the road or from farms, and they let them live out their life on the sanctuary. And when you take a tour there, they teach you about the vegan lifestyle. And again, they're not, you're horrible if you eat meat people, because other people that I know that have gone there still eat meat. They didn't get the same thing that I got.
Wow.
But for me, listening to, as we're walking across the pasture to meet the dairy cows, and they're talking about the dairy industry, and he's like, okay, we get there, we meet the cows, I say, I'm done with milk, I'm just done with dairy. And then we go to meet chickens, and they're talking about the egg industry and the mass production, and I was like, okay, I'm done with eggs. So for me, it was a snap thing. It went from, we were doing it already, so I didn't think there was going to be that much of a difference. And so, And I also, afterward, I never even thought about the health side of it, but afterward, I was amazed at how much better I felt after stopping the intake of meat.
And for me, it started out for health reasons, and then the animal welfare kicked in after a while, and I realized I love dogs, I love cats. We actually run a store here in Atlanta called Second Life, and our proceeds benefit animal rescue, and I thought, how can I go and eat other animals when I'm trying to save these animals? They all breathe the same, they're sentient beings, and it was just really hard for me to kind of grasp. But I think one of the turning points for me was, as time passed, I learned about factory farming and how horrific these animals are abused. And it's terrible. And if we did that to dogs or cats, people would be thrown in jail, but people seem to just turn the other eye because they're livestock or they're farm animals. And I think people just think all these animals are living in pastures and they're happy, and that's why it's okay to eat meat, because they wouldn't be alive. But for me, to bring an animal into this world, treat it with horrific abuse just to kill it, I couldn't continue. My conscience couldn't continue that. But I think the final tipping point for me was,
so it's this huge dog festival that's celebrated where they eat dogs, and culturally that's okay for them. And I thought, how hypocritical is it that I'm condemning what they're doing from a cultural perspective? It's called speciesism, where we think it's okay to eat these animals because we always have, or society says it's okay, but dogs and cats aren't. But then you look at rabbits. I mean, some people have rabbits as pets, and then some people eat them. But I think that dog festival is really a turning point for me, and I realized I don't think I can ever eat anything with a face again. And that's pretty much where I go. If it had a mom, or if it has a face.
Okay, so as a couple, how's the experience, both of you guys, not eating meat?
Actually, it makes life a lot easier. Not having to think about meal planning. We're going to be eating the same thing. We don't have to worry about when we're shopping. It's the same thing. It makes life so much easier with all of that.
For me, it's great. I mean, I never thought that he would ever go vegetarian or even push us towards, or get me to stop eating cheese. That really was eye-opening, but it's nice to have that shared commonality where I don't have to see the meat on the plate. I don't judge. I know it's a personal choice, but at the same time, knowing that his health is better as well.
Yeah.
I mean, that's huge for me, knowing that I'll have him for longer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been really neat, and it's been almost 2 years since he's been vegetarian.
And how about yourself?
I want to say maybe around 2005, 2006 is when I started. It's been quite some time, but it's like I said, it started out for health reasons, and then I realized I can't eat an animal. It was living, and now I can't have it living. I can't have it dead inside of me. So I know that sounds kind of morbid, but that's really how I view it. And now, to me, eating a cow or a pig is like you asking me to eat my dog. There's no difference to me. They feel, they breathe. The cows love their calves. They're sentient beings. And so.
Yeah, and you know how you said it, the feeling of it sitting in your stomach, that is reality, because our intestines and our stomach aren't built to pass animal products, flesh, and it's harder to digest animal products.
Well, that's why you feel lighter, because it takes less time. But I think one of the biggest surprises for me was how much I now enjoy cooking. I used to hate cooking. I didn't do much when we got married years ago. I just didn't enjoy it. And now there's so many recipes, and ethnic recipes, and curries, and vegetables, and the food just tastes better,
So much better.
and it's more creative, and it takes less time, it takes less pots. That was really a big surprise for me. And then just knowing that I'm not contributing to animals being killed, and it's better.
Ozone layer.
The environment. I mean, there's just, my conscience is clear. So.
Do you notice that you spend less time in the market and you're more in one section? Do you guys have that? Because I have that.
Oh yeah, I mean, like the areas that we walk past.
Yeah.
Well, a new Sprouts just opened up near us and where we live, and it was hilarious because somebody was asking me about, oh, so what do you like about that? And I'm saying, well, I know this, and I can't tell you anything about the left side of the store because we don't ever go over there. And they're like, why not? I said, because it's the butchery area, so I have no reason to go into that area. So yeah, you do notice that, like, when you're shopping a store, you don't ever shop the whole store.
Yeah, it's awesome, time saving.
Yes.
What would you say to a woman who has, their significant other, and it's like, oh, he's still eating meat? What would you say to that girl?
I guess he could make his own meat, perhaps. If that's not an option, to me, I wanted to do what was best for me, and that meant not eating meat. For someone who says, I have to cook for my significant other, there's so many substitutions that you can make that I would probably just make the meat on the side, and make the main dish vegetarian and whatnot. But in reality, if he wanted meat, he would have had to cook it on his own but it got to the point I didn't even like the smell of meat, so that would be hard for me to cook for someone once you get to a certain point. It's kind of like smoking. Once you're a non-smoker, you can't stand the smell of smoke. It's the same with meat. So I don't know what I would tell someone. I guess a lot of it just depends on the woman and the type of relationship they have, but it can be done. It may not be the easiest thing, but I think it's worth it. And you never know, he may realize if you continue to cook vegetarian options, I guess this is what I would say, go meatless twice a week and make the food so great that he doesn't realize that he's missing the meat. Yeah. And eventually he may not miss it. Then go 3 times a week. And if he has to have meat, he can have it when he go out, or he can grill it or something. But I just think meat is such a societal, we have to have it. We've always lived it, or we've always eaten it. And I think it's a big paradigm shift. And, if the husband is supportive, I try eating meatless.
And what was your experience having, your loved one completely end meat and you were still consuming meat? What was that like?
It was weird. Like I said, for me, the farm sanctuary was the turning point. So before that, it didn't really even faze me. I didn't think much about it. I never even was really aware of the fact. I was aware of the fact that the smell bothered her, so I wouldn't cook things. And so, like, in the house, I think it was down to tuna fish was all I was having in the house. I would have a can of tuna fish and, for mixed sandwiches. And but I would eat when I went out. So for me, we'd gotten rid of it in the house because of that. So that was just my being aware of her needs and knowing that it bothered her, so I wouldn't do it. But for me, I would tell people that, like she's been saying, it's a personal choice. So you have to make your own choices. Just like. I don't know. It's a tough situation when it comes to telling others how they should feel. I don't ever want to push my beliefs on other people. I will tell you what I believe and why I did it. But my advice is the person needs to look at themselves and say, okay, what's more important to me? Because is it a long-term relationship that I've been in? Is that the important part, or is it a new relationship? Well, maybe I need to look. If it's a new relationship, it's either going to be what I want or something else. Because what if the person didn't like dogs? We would never be together. If one of us didn't like dogs, we would never be together because we're dog people. So,
as a couple who is vegetarian, but you guys have had meat before, and you know what people say about protein and all that good stuff, would you raise a family vegan or vegetarian?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, all the studies show you that the protein that you get out of the plants is just as vital for you as what meat is, and it's actually
cholesterol.
Without the cholesterol, without all the harmful things. It's a simple thing. We were talking earlier about like the lifestyle part of it. Cleaning. That's one of the things that I love now. Cleaning dishes are so much easier now. When you don't have all that fried grease in the pan and you have to figure out what to do with it, and you don't want to pour it down the drain because you're going to clog up everything. So it's so much easier to clean now because you don't have those issues anymore. So I look at that saying, okay, that's inside me, and now it's no longer inside me. So I don't want to put that into any child that I would bring into the world either.
And I think one of the biggest misnomers is that if you're not eating meat, you're eating just salads and sprouts, basically, which you're not. Yeah. And there's so many substitutions. And one of my favorite dishes ever as a child and is tacos. So you know what? Instead of putting beef in, now we eat it with refried beans. Or instead of making things with milk, you put coconut or almond milk or whatnot. So it's so much easier now than it used to be with the stores like Trader Joe's and Sprouts. There's so many substitutions. There's simple things you can. It's not a big, drawn out, difficult to find things. It's really simple. And for children, I would much rather they eat fruits and vegetables and beans than dead cows. So.
Yeah, and it's interesting because people say that eating clean is way more expensive and all that. Beans, like I buy a bag of beans for $1.
Yep.
Yeah, and vegetables are very inexpensive as well.
That's another myth because tacos cost a lot less without the beef and whatnot.
And I like that word myth because there are so many myths or unknowns about being vegan or vegetarian, and it's such a benefit to be a vegan or vegetarian. That's how I feel about health.
And I think some of the hardest things for people to make this choice, and I hear this a lot from folks who, especially in rescue, who want to be vegetarian but don't want to have to make more choices or life's hard enough as it is or whatnot. But
Life's hard enough.
Yeah, you know, I don't want to have to go to a restaurant and not be able to eat all these things, or I really miss cheese, or I just, you know, it'd be too hard when I'm with my family. And it's like, yeah, it's not the easiest route to take, but it's so worth it.
And it's a ripple effect. We get to influence the people around us, and one person does count. And I think that's great. And I'm so glad you guys were able to come here today and talk about your journey. I know you guys are going to help so many people who get to watch this. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thanks for having us.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Hey everyone, and thank you for watching this episode of the Christina Carlos Show. So I first met Toby and Tanya at their nonprofit thrift store in Atlanta, Georgia, and I immediately could tell while I'm in there that they have a passion for animals. And the reason why I knew that is because they had a cat that was right there near the register that was open for adoption. They also had their dog there behind the counter. So, you know, I got a little curious and started asking questions, and come to find out they are vegans, which was exciting for me because I was vegetarian at the time, and at the time of the interview I was a vegetarian as well. Fast forward to now that I'm airing the show, I am vegan, so I know exactly about all the benefits that they were talking about. For anyone who is thinking or has had any kind of thought of becoming vegetarian or vegan, it is extremely beneficial to our environment. It is also beneficial to your body. You know, like any other big change for your body, consult your doctor. But if you are interested in becoming vegetarian or vegan, I gotta be honest, the first couple of weeks, first couple of months aren't always easy. Only when you're around like friends and family and it's delicious food that's being cooked and it's stuff that you always used to eat. That's not the easiest. But what I gotta tell you, when you're at family functions or gatherings with friends, sides are your best friend until you got a better grip of what you can do and what you should bring, and you know, all of that comes together and it all starts making sense and it gets easier as time progresses. But aside from that, aside from it being a little difficult in the beginning, you are gonna notice countless benefits and changes within your body, and it's gonna be all worthwhile. Another thing I do want to add, if you are interested in becoming vegetarian or vegan, there is no rule book. There is no rule book, so I want to tell you that create your own definition for what a vegan or vegetarian should be. And obviously, you know, when people get curious and they want to ask you questions if you don't have meat on your plate. So don't be afraid to, you know, answer, and also don't get boxed into the definition of being a vegetarian or being a vegan, because people have an idea of what they should be, but this is your diet, this is how you live. So live it how you want to live. You know, my first year I had cut out all meat, but I was still eating egg. But the second year I cut out egg completely, cut out milk completely. And up until last year I had, you know, I had shrimp. I wasn't a big seafood eater ever, but I would have shrimp every now and again throughout these past 5 years. And finally last year my taste buds rejected the shrimp, which is exciting for me because I'm like, yes, one less thing, you know, off the plate that I don't ever have to worry about because my body's not really wanting to eat it anymore. But you know, listen to your body while you're on this journey, and it's possible. Anything is possible if you want it bad enough. It's super beneficial. If you are thinking about becoming vegan or vegetarian, please let me know in the comments. If you're already vegan or vegetarian, leave it in the comments as well. Let me know if you've ever experienced it, or if you're considering experiences. You know, I'll talk back and forth with you, so you know we can get through it and talk about, and I'll answer any questions according to my personal experience. And if you like this episode, please like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Thank you so much to Toby and Tanya for contributing to the show and sharing your journey. See you guys next time.